Hello and welcome to part 3 of the basic MDF series. If you've been following along, you will have seen me put together the MDF kit and demonstrate 2 techniques, both air dry clay and making use of sandpaper, for sprucing them up a bit and making them look a little bit better on the table. In this episode, I suppose if you want to call it that, I will be making this with some texture spray. It is a very simple technique. This is going to be one of the quicker of my videos. So join me downstairs at the bench. This is going to be one of the quicker videos. So if you join me at the bench, we will first prime that with my MDF sealant, and then I will go down to the spray room and spray away. When I'm working with MDF, what I have found is that it does soak up paint. Some people say that the more expensive kits avoid this problem, but rather safe than sorry is what I would say, especially when they aren't cheap. And so I've invested in some of this, which seems to work very well. I will pop a link to where I ordered this from in the description below. There are obviously other suppliers and other makes and manufacturers, but that's what I've got. And when you open it, it is a clear, kind of creamy colour and looks a bit odd. But I've used this a number of times now, and trust me, it does work. What I'm going to do is 2 of the sections. I'm going to do one which will have the textured paint on it, and one which will just have the primer to show the difference in putting this sealant on. You slap it on, you don't have to be too careful. Indeed, it says generously on the label. And there we are, it is as quick as that to apply. I will now leave that for maybe 2 or 3 minutes, and after 2 or 3 minutes it will go. I've got off slightly, which means I can tidy up some of where there's excess and just make sure that there's nothing missed. I will not show you that because it's obvious, but yeah, I'll be back shortly with the next stage in this technique. Here we have the 2 treated wall sections. I'm going to spray one with the stone effect, and I'm going to prime the other just so you can see how well it clears. And now I'm going to pull my mask over my mouth before I spray. These wall sections have now dried completely, and I'm very happy to show you the current state of them. This is with the textured paint. Now what you'll notice is it's dried brilliantly. It's given a really good effect, and this is something that I scared myself when I first ever used that stuff, is that when it is sprayed on it looks thick and ugly and you're like, oh no, I've ruined it. But when it goes off, and if you leave it for even just one day, when you come back to it, it's shrunk down and it's no longer such an ugly mess, and it has actually now looks, well, very good. Now it's very hard to put this stuff on without making a mess. It's a very messy spray, and if you are trying to only do a little bit of your model, you'll need to mask it very effectively because there's no real way of spraying it in a small on a small area. But if you're looking at doing the entire model, really do recommend that. The second thing to show you is the sprayed undercoated, which I put the primer on, and what you can see with that is that has covered much better than when I hadn't put that sealant on. So I do recommend that you get the MDF sealant. Now I have one more idea that I'm going to do on this one that I've primed. So I'm going to go and get my mask on and what I'm going to do is I'm going to spray just where the bricks are showing through with a red colour, and then I will be doing some work with the polyfiller to make it look like it's plastered with the bricks showing through. So I'm going to do a little bit more finishing up on that wall. So in a second I will show you the results of that.
Health and safety first. There you have it. I have sprayed, and you can see just how difficult it is to spray in a limited area. I will now let that to go off, and I will come back later to do the plastering.
With the red paint dry on this section of wall, I'm now going to show you another technique which will work very well with this section of wall. I'm going to use some polyfiller, which is wood filler for those of you not from the UK, and we'll be plastering this wall. So I will point the camera down at the bench and I will show you this technique, which is very, very easy and is revolutionary for building MDF kits. For this technique I use polyfiller quick drying. I cannot claim to be the originator of this technique. I actually borrowed it off of Rich from Two Fat Lardies because he made it look so easy, and boy is it easy. So I got a pot of that. I have a plastic tray. I have one of these little painting palette knives, which is very good, and some water. And hopefully this will come out well on the camera. What I do is I will take a little bit of the polyfiller out of the pot, not too much, and then seal that pot up again. That then can go into my little mixing tray, or my little thing here, and then it is as simple as taking the item that you want to plaster, applying the paste and smoothing it across. There we are. Once you have run out of plaster on your tray, you can go and get some more. The key is not too much at any time on your working palette. If you are ever having trouble with smoothing out, maybe it's got a bit dry, dip your palette knife in the water like I just did, and then you'll find that it becomes workable again. Once you have done a bit of the plastering, and this is something which you have to judge, you'll need to smooth it off. Very similar to real plastering. So I'm going to dip my finger in some water, and then very, very carefully I'm going to come along and I'm going to smooth this off. So a little bit of water, and what you can do is very similar to if you're doing real plastering, which if anyone has ever done, which I have, is actually much harder than it looks. This is a step which is going to take some practice. Applying this plaster is very easy. It's much harder on camera because I'm trying to stay in shot, which, as you'll have noticed with the cuts, I didn't actually manage. And after this I will turn the camera off, finish this, because then I can hold it more naturally and I'll be happier, and I'll come back to you to show you the finished piece. But you can see that as we work this with our just slightly wet finger, it's really smoothing out nicely. And the smoother you want, the more work you put in, or if you want it looking a little bit rough, then leave it looking a little bit rough. This is your model after all. And if you accidentally pull anything off like I just did, again I was out of shot, I'm an idiot, but if you can put it back in and it's fine. So I'm going to finish this now, and I will show you what it looks like when I am done. So that's been finished for a little while now, actually, funnily enough. I've been busy doing other things. Here is the finished wall which has the plaster on it. And I think you'll agree that looks quite nice, particularly with the little kind of notches that have been left out. Now, one of the ways you could be a little neater on that is by using actual masking tape. And maybe I'll do another video at another time for more advanced techniques, including how you would use masking tape in that way. However, the technique that I really think is the best of them all is the textured spray. Now you can see there that that has done a superb coverage, and I'm very, very pleased with that. And it looks great as well. It really will look good on the tabletop. In the intervening time, I have actually done one more that I didn't film because of various reasons. So what I'm going to do now is go and grab those and explain to you how I did it. And then we will wrap this video up and I will be able to get this published and shared, because I know that it's been a little while since I published the last in this series. So let me grab the other examples and I will be right back. So this is the fence, the wall sections with the gate, as you can see, and you can see that that has got a very nice coverage of material on it, and you can't actually even really see the tabs at all. Now what that is, I've done both in the same way. What that is a mix of black tile grout, water and PVA. Now, if you've watched my Battle Games in Middle Earth first video, you'll see that this was the material that I used for my kind of more advanced wall there. However, in that video I forgot to add PVA, which was a big mistake. I have now saved that ruin. However, that's another story for another video. This was me proving to myself that if you put PVA into the mix, it's going to work fine. And believe me, it's absolutely fantastic. You've got a really nice texture, which would, if you wanted to, dry brush up very nicely, and it's very, very hard wearing and solid feeling. So there's the top tip. Unfortunately, I don't have the actual making and putting on of it, but if you watch that other video, you'll see how I mix it, and the only thing that I did differently was I put a relatively generous amount of PVA in the mix before I put it on these boards. So let's wrap that video up there. Thank you very much for watching. I hope that you've found these tips and this very basic sweep through MDF buildings quite useful. I'm sure that I will add at a later date to this series with some more tips and tricks as I think of them, or even if you comment below and let me know as you suggest them. If you have not yet subscribed, please do so below. And if you do subscribe, don't forget to click the bell, because if you do that, you will be informed when another of my videos goes live. And without any further ado, thank you very much for watching Beard Clipper, and I look forward to seeing you again in another video.